start the meeting. Everybody look at the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second, Miller.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any public comments? None? Okay, everybody read the minutes?
Motion to approve, Miller.
Motion to approve minutes?
Second, request.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, next. RPA 18, transportation alternatives.
Actually, we're gonna start with the,
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Skip one.
civil rights policy update. So it's now available, it became available yesterday, and, there'll be a public comment period from December 12th to January 6th. And then we'll do the final revisions between January 7th and 15th. And then we will ask for approval on February 12th. So if you go to the website where you normally get the agenda and the minutes, it's been added, draft with, civil rights policy was added there. So, you have 3 months basically to look it over and, provide any comments. And like I said, there'll be a public comment period for 25 days.
So Mia, it's an existing policy that's just being updated.
Yes,
What's changed?
it's basically a federal requirement that it needs to be updated every year. So if any policies or regulations have changed, as far as I know, there aren't major changes. But I'm not the one writing it, so I can't be 100% sure of what the changes are. I think the complaint process is one of the main parts that was being revised for Title VI and for Americans 88 Americans with Disabilities Act. I know that was undergoing a little more review. But as far as, I mean, the laws are the same. It could just be details. I know one of the components that was being looked at more this time around was the limited English proficiency policies and how to provide accommodations and how to make sure those populations are being engaged, disadvantaged communities, making sure those people can participate in the public planning process. I know those parts were being looked at, but like I said, I'm not the one that was doing the revising, so basically the framework of it is not changing. It's just the details of how some of the policies are being worked out. And we also do a review every year, I believe, of like equity, how NAPA is doing in various categories related to equity, so that it covers that as well. I'm not sure if that was part of the last iteration. That it'll be up there for until the beginning of January, so if you get a chance, just take it. If you have comments before we meet again, it would be nice to get them as you make note of them. It's more efficient, taking it into account, but we will meet we are planning to meet in February. Actually, no, that's not really correct, because that's when we want to do the final approval. So yeah, the comments, we should receive the comments in order to include them by then. We should receive them in January. So the correct, what I should have said is by January 6th, we need comments in order for them to be included in the final revision. And then we'll ask for approval of that final version in February.
And Susan, to your point, a lot of those changes ended up being more internal procedure, like assigning specific people that would respond to civil rights complaints. go-to contacts for a lot of internal procedure. So it wasn't a lot of external work, it was mostly just cleaning up what we do within MAPA, as well as just identifying.
Yeah, please go to the website, and if you would like me to send it to you, I can do that as well. Actually, maybe I will just email it to everybody, that way. Easier. Yeah. But in the meantime, you can go to this website. But yeah, as I said, it's a requirement every 3 years, it has to be updated, and it goes over policies, how we follow regulations, and what the complaint process is for civil rights and for. So what we're requesting today is the motion to open the comment period for the draft public policy. And it can be just one vote, it doesn't have to be split up to technical and policy, and that would be for December 12th to June 6th.
Okay, we have a motion. John made the motion, do I have a second?
Second, Miller.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, now we'll go to transportation only.
And I'm switching things around on you a little bit. We are going to go through the, excuse me, transportation alternatives application, which is kind of long. We're gonna go through all the components. And so to give you the option, if you prefer, or if you don't need to listen to that part and you'd rather not stay, we'll do the bylaws first. And then you can decide if you'd like to stay for the application. I know some of you are familiar with it. So we'll do the review of the bylaws first. So in 2021, Iowa DOT did a 6-year review of RPA team. And one of the recommendations was to include a representative for small communities. And so we looked at, we started by looking at the voting rules, and basically each member gets 1 vote, and then the member representing Pottawattamie County receives 2 votes. And so if we look at the 4 counties and look at how many communities have populations of 500 or greater. So in Harrison County, 4 out of the 10 communities have actually 1,000 or greater. And then Shelby, I assumed most of Shelby was in Shelby County. I think a small part of it is in Pottawattamie County, but if we assume that it's part of Shelby, there are 3 communities there, and even if there is part in Pottawattamie County, that fraction of the population is quite small. So 3 out of 11 in Shelby County would meet the criterion of 500 or more. Mills only has 2. And I'm not sure why they didn't list Mineola on the website if they put this to me. But Mineola would be too small anyway. And then for Pottawattamie, there were 8 out of 10 that had 500 or more.
Mineola is not a city.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, it's part of the county. Sure. Mark Brand used to be there.
So then if one way to split it up would be to kind of try to even it out. So if we group Harrison and Shelby together and then Pottawattamie and Mills together, it kind of evens out. You would have 18% of the communities, but 23% of the population in the Harrison Shelby group, and then higher percent of communities, 26, but lower percent of the population in the Mills Pottawattamie. So this is just trying to even it out and matching a county with 4 towns with a county with 4 towns. So different possibilities would be to have 1 representative for all of the small communities, and that person rotate where that person comes from. we could have one representative for each one of these groups. So one representative for Harrison and Shelby and another representative for Mills and Pottawattamie. And then you could also just have one representative for each county. Or any other option that you want to propose. So this is really up for discussion.
Yeah, didn't Harrison County have 2 votes as well in the bylaws? I I always kind of understood that Harrison and Pot had 2 votes because Mills has Glenwood, which has a vote, Shelby has Harlan, which has a vote. So really each county had 2 votes, I thought.
The latest version that I could find was from, I think, 3 years ago. That's what I saw in that one. It's possible that it's been changed, like from the past. There was another version from 2015, I think. Don't remember the details of that.
If I recall, I think Harrison County was the one that was underrepresented by 1.
It seems that if we just did it by county, it's kind of uneven. There are only, although one city is larger than another, it's really your preference. What you feel is more fair or appropriate.
What is this, the fact, what do you mean by 2 votes? Like, when it comes down to voting for what?
Just on the policy. So I guess that's just the way I understood it. I need to almost go reread it, but I thought every county had 2. Where I was trying to figure out why Pot had 2, right? So then I looked at it, like, well, Shelby has Harlan as well. Mills has Glenwood. I thought Harrison had 2, and we were always kind of wondering if Missouri Valley was ever going to get to that size where they should have a vote. That was supposed to be 5,000, right? So they're ways away from 5,000 yet.
Did it used to be less than 5,000 for towns? Did they change that part?
No, there's always been some, for the last 5 years or so, there's been some questions on Harlan. I think they
dropped under 5.
yeah, they redrew the boundaries somehow, and it's not that the population changed, the boundaries changed, and all of a sudden they were under 5, and it's like, well, that doesn't really seem fair.
Yeah.
To undo that, but yeah, there's always been some question.
And the boundaries change, part of the Chase Dollar city.
So
I think if I remember right, I think their actual population fell below 5,000.
I guess another option would be to pick the largest unit in each county, but for Pottawattamie, that's kind of difficult. It's not really, there isn't one that's, that's easy to do in Mills, Shelby, and maybe even Harrison, Missouri Valley. That's a little tougher to do. There's such a small difference. Okay. Yeah. I guess another possibility is to look at 1,000 or more, so you'd have Trainer, Oakland, Boca, Auburn. As far as I know, they don't really give any guidance on population numbers. They just asked for it to be considered. So I think it's really up to the individual committees to decide what is more appropriate for their region.
The difficult thing is, like in Pot County, we're working through town, so if we're on a federal aid eligible route, it's pretty much the counties already, and we're just doing the work for those towns. They don't really have anything that's federal aid eligible outside of us. I mean, I haven't looked at every town, but I know my routes through town. I can't imagine there's much left in the town beyond that. So I guess I can see the larger towns having federal aid routes, but these small ones, I think all the counties are working through them. So I guess I've always kind of been opposed to adding them just because we're giving them a service now. They
Doing the work anyway.
yeah, we're doing the work
It's-
anyway. I mean,
It's inclusive.
if they want to come here and thank us for doing the work, that's fine, but I don't know. I don't know what this does or changes. I mean, it doesn't hurt to do it, but I just don't think it really changes anything for anyone.
They usually don't have funds to.
They don't have the match money to begin with.
The city of Imogene reached out to me, and they're not even my county, but they got city bridge funds. But they have no money for the engineering or the inspection, so they're asking a different county to help. So it's, well, sorry, but no, but wouldn't that kind of be the same thing here? If they ever, if any of these towns ever did, like, stop it. They don't have to match, they don't have to engineering or inspection.
There's
They
not
would
a
end up
reason.
asking the county.
I mean, they can sure come and give an opinions, but I don't know that they have the ability to do anything. I mean, they're invited down. They don't. That's why. I don't really. Harrison County.
That's true.
Oh, they were, yeah, small towns. Is just RPA 18 doing this, or all the other ones?
Can you guys hear me?
I don't know what the comments were that were given to the other RPAs, and this was a few years ago. So they basically check in halfway.
Travis, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but they can't hear.
They can't hear us. No.
Yeah.
They don't have resources. No, to get there.
Let me see. Let me send a chat.
I'm not opposed to it. I just don't understand what the goal is or the vision to it. I guess it's just inclusiveness. That's really all it could be.
Change.
I mean, I guess, as you said, the county already represents. Is there anything that they would get now that they don't, that they don't get now?
My bigger issue is you would invite them, all of a sudden they think, oh, we're into this funding stream, then they realize there's no roads in town that actually qualify, because I have this discussion a lot with towns, you know, these applications, called projects go out, and I tell them what routes in town they actually have, and like, oh, well.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to have them coming here, thinking, oh, we're gonna get something, and he's like, well, don't have any routes through town, or if you do, already included in our projects, but I just don't want to see anybody get frustrated coming in and thinking, like,
So the Logan project, the safe routes to school, is that the city of Logan? That's the city of Logan, isn't it? That's the sponsor of that. So I guess it depends what.
yeah, there's probably more there for TAP than there is for SDG.
The only city I can see that would really benefit would be Shelby, and that's because they're on two sides, they got two counties, and it would help them understand, oh, it's all the same place, as opposed to, we need Pot County to apply for this, and we need Shelby County to apply for that. They would at least have better education as to where the funding comes from.
Same time, I guess anyone is free to come to these meetings. Ask us anytime. So it's not like you're deprived of assistance if you're not a member.
Well, and these meetings are held during the workday, so if you're expecting a city council person to be on the board, they would have to take time off from their full-time job to attend. If you ask the city clerk, well, the city clerk's got enough things to worry about, and they might come for the first meeting, but they see no value, so they wouldn't come back. And then otherwise, you're looking at retired people that are just looking for a free cup of coffee and something to do, so. No.
My ears were
And it
burning.
was a good cup of coffee.
I'm not opposed to it, I just don't know what it's,
Is it
We're
going to
trying to
benefit us at all?
what we're trying to
Benefit
accomplish,
them.
I guess.
And it doesn't,
And it doesn't say the amount of input either, it just says additional input, well, that's vague.
it doesn't, there isn't a vote today, so it doesn't have to be your final decision today. It was just to get your thoughts.
I mean, there's a lot of these meetings that I attend and I'm like, what value did I provide to this meeting? And if I was a city representative, I would think every day, I don't bring any value. I don't even know why they added me. I think it's short-lived would have any active participant.
I agree with that, because it isn't going to change their outcome on anything, probably, so.
Thank you. Were they to be added to the policy committee or to the technical committee or how?
Their words,
I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt on the technical,
yeah,
just talk about the projects anyway, we're not.
their words included both.
So the request came from the smaller communities then, or who brought this up?
The Iowa DOT brought it up to us
Okay.
as a possibility. And it could be different for different groups, you know, and this group decides it's not gonna help, and that's fine, and another group decides it will, that's fine, they're not saying that everybody has to do this, so just whatever works for.
I mean, we try to put something on the technical committee and if it's something that's working out and well received, then maybe it grows from there, but I would at least show some effort on our part.
Oh, is he Scott?
Yeah, he's saying you can't hear Travis. According to him.
Travis and I can hear each other and we can hear you, but you can't hear us.
How about now?
I can hear you, Travis, but I don't think they can still hear us.
How about now?
Check, check.
That's
think that's the audio from. So,
50 footer.
yeah, Scott is.
Yeah.
We should be able to hear my tones.
Can you hear us now?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Travis.
So I just typed this out as well. So this is unique for me to speak here, but I have a little bit of knowledge on both ends of this conversation now. So the representation comment is provided in all RPA reviews for agencies who do not have this type of representation. RPA policy and technical committees serve as a regional planning committee, not just a STBG selection committee. Especially with the new infrastructure bill, there are so many other functions that an RPA performs other than just performing county road duties through communities and stuff like that. And that's why their representation is so important. These types of committees are represent a lot of other MPO and RPA committees throughout the state. And that is why it is recommended that all of our RPAs and MPOs statewide do this. Obviously not so much for MPOs since their urban boundaries don't necessarily go as far. But this is important for RPAs because these are a type of municipal jurisdiction that is eligible for funding that does come under the purview of the TIP that is approved every year by this board.
Thanks, Travis.
My comment that I had was, it goes back to Harlan and the urban area boundary. And I believe, if I remember right, that Harlan's population was below 5,000 or above 5,000, but the urban area population was below 5,000. And that's what they used to determine basically a seat at the table funding, that type of thing. And I know like Cherokee, Shenandoah, both have fallen under 5,000 and they still have a representation at the RPA.
Yeah, I wouldn't fret the number necessarily. I think the big point though is that every year tips are approved by your board with all different types of applicants, not just particular types. So this level of representation makes sure that all eligible project types are at least included in some capacity. I know that I'm trying to remember. I think there was an ex officio member from a county conservation board. Is that correct?
Yes, from Golden Hills Resource.
So that's another thing too. Like I said, I think the more project sponsor types that are eligible for the funding that gets administered by the RPA 18 committee being represented on the board, the better and the more inclusive of a process it is. So that's why that comment is put in these reviews long before I've ever been in this role or before I was in my previous role, obviously. So.
Do you have any examples by any chance of how other RPAs have done this?
I can share basically how it is with the 3 RPAs that I work with. Most all of them have a person at the table that is representing a city over 5,000. Atura, which is Region 14, has looked at basically having just small city representation. So it could be a person representing any town within the region as their representative.
So I have RPA 9s, which is which is Scott and Muscatine counties. The mayors of cities under 5,000 and the non-urbanized areas, so because they're in a similar agency with MPO and RPA, they've caucused for one member to represent all of the small communities, basically in Muscatine County and then Western Scott County, if you're familiar with that jurisdictional boundary. But like I said, it's to make sure that all of the project types that are included in the various documents that you process are included in the decision making.
And is that a rotating member? Does it switch out what county?
I would have to do a little more research. I just have their work program from 2025 open. It's the city of Long Grove, which is a small city in their region. So, but like I said, I would guess that maybe half do and half don't right now, and it's a recommendation that all do
Okay.
on our end. So.
I like the idea of the small communities picking whoever their leader is instead of us picking somebody. So.
Is there anything in the bylaws today about proxy votes?
There is, from what I recall, is somebody can designate somebody else. So for example, Jean would be designated by the mayor to come.
When Dan was on it. Maybe my vote. I was proxy for a lot of years and Susan started coming to meetings. That's it.
Well, like I said, it's not a vote today. So you can think about it and we can decide at a later time. Yeah.
Is there a way to give them a opportunity, like kind of leave it up to them? We had a letter like explaining this is the only route available. You know, kind of explain some of the stuff we talked about here so they don't have their hopes way high. But you are invited to come sit on the committee. But these are kind of your only, you know, leave it up to the communities. They might, if they feel it's not worth it, then say, hey, we tried to get representation. If they do feel it's
Do you
worth
wanna
it.
open it up to everybody that way, or do you wanna try and limit it to you pick one person to represent all of you?
I think for TAP though, most all the roads be eligible. I think it's just the STBG on the federal aid route. So if they wanted to do a TAP project, probably anywhere in town.
Then I guess we would,
I'm not that good at TAP stuff. I don't think TAP would have the limitations that the other funds would have.
I mean, just kind of set guidelines like, yeah, TAP it would be available to the other roads, but you would still be responsible for the 20% match, engineering, inspection, all that. Right. And then they can decide. Idea to say that we tried to include them, and then it's up to them if they say no.
It would be better for them to have more information going into it than just,
Yeah, up front.
hey, would you like to do this? And there may or may not be funding. But
Yeah.
most likely.
Also makes it a little harder to get quorum. Well,
Right.
if they don't show it, so it could be problematic.
But like you said, you could offer them to be on the technical committee first and then move.
Yeah.
If they show up for, you know, so many meetings of the technical, okay, there's some reliable.
I think Susan might have been hinting at maybe if they couldn't make it, they could send a proxy, I guess, as well. Not sure if that's what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just wondering if I can have two votes,
You got to.
because and I represent a small town. This person,
Yeah, I suppose so.
Then how much of a quorum would increase?
We'd have to have 5.
What's the first, is it a
It's just over half.
3, 4, 5. We just have 5 now. So
right? They all have their own person, would that increase how many would have to show up? Makes sense. Does that matter?
yeah,
Quorum currently is technically 3. So quorum is currently technically 3.
Just
3.
It's 50% of, right now, their bylaws say 50% of policy.
Right, so if it were to increase to 15 people, then the form would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Significantly.
That could be an issue.
Don't we have 8 on the policy board? 7 or 8, right?
Thanks. Is it six?
8. Well, Glenwood, Mills, Harrison, Shelby, Harlan,
I think six. Six.
But Pot has 2 votes.
I'm sure Harrison does too. I swear I read that once, but
Harrison does not have two votes.
I'm gonna read my bylaws after this meeting. I won't tell you right though.
It's six policy right now.
Forgive me for asking a question here. This is not a question based upon my current role. Have you guys done any bylaw updates since I left?
We've done this sort of thing, Travis, where we've sort of selected items from it for review
Okay.
and had some discussion, but not a whole revamping. We're sort of doing it little by little, chipping away at it.
Okay, cool. Was just curious.
So is there some information at a state website or something that we could go out and review kind of some of the examples that Scott was speaking to, or that we can study before our next meeting, just to think about it?
Travis, do you want to go over what those RPs were that you mentioned?
So I don't have a comprehensive list of this, but what I can do is I can go through all of the recommendations that we've had at our various RPA reviews over the last 6 years, because we do those on a 6-year rotating basis. Like I've said, there's probably half of them that do it and half of them that don't. And it's a recommendation of all that don't to do it, just based upon the dynamic nature of the work that's done. So I think to start, I would just recommend that MAPA staff look at the Region 9's RPA, look at their work program. For instance, they have just a list of who their policy committee is. They have a transit rep, they have a large city rep, City of Muscatine. That would not be relevant to you guys because Council Bluffs is within the MPO. So that wouldn't be relevant. But then they have Muscatine County and Scott County, because that's the 2 counties that make up that. And then they have the small town, I guess, caucus member. So
Yeah. Could you forward the DOT review of the RPA to the Policy and Technical Committee? I guess I'd like to see
Probably.
it for it.
Yeah, probably. Travis, is that okay if I do that?
you're more than welcome to do that.
Okay.
Another thought would be some of these communities are Main Street, Iowa communities, and they have a designated employee that represents their city in economic development. Avoca is one, Woodbine is one. Is Glenwood? Okay. But anyway, that might be an option for an employee of the city that could justify coming to an 11 o'clock meeting, and they might find value and provide value, as opposed to a city councilman.
Everybody okay to move on to the applications? Well, thanks Travis and Scott for your input.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'll just quickly skip to the end. This is what I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over the application for the TA set aside program. But before I do that, I will skip to the end so that you can decide whether or not you would like to stay. So, additional business. We have a few items, the RPA 1318 joint Safe Streets for All project. That grant agreement has been sent to the Federal Highway Administration in Iowa for review. And then, we're currently working on the RFQ with the goal of having that out later this month. And then the parking lot construction is scheduled to be complete fairly soon. So by January, it's expected that the parking lot will be back to normal. That means we can have meetings there, but we could maybe have them here. Maybe that's something we should have a vote on.
I love that
That
idea.
would make most people happy.
Yeah, I know. We can try to keep them here if that's, if everyone agrees on that.
Be great.
Yeah.
Okay with that, John?
I'm fine, but I don't think Harrison County can find me.
I will say that RPA 9 does hold their meetings in Iowa too, because their office is located in Illinois. So that would be following one of their precedents as well.
All right. You just vote.
Do we need an official vote?
No, I think I know what all the votes will be, so. So we're not planning on meetings in December or January unless there's a tip amendment, so. Monitor your email, look for messages if they come up. So we're planning for next meeting to be February the 12th at 11, hopefully here, but I will confirm and hopefully John could.
I could block this room out the calendar way ahead, so do you want me to do 6 months?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll have to check it. But I will attempt to. I think it'll be available in February for sure.
So, the other two items on the calendar are the joint TTAC and RPAC meeting for the MPO that applies to the MPO, but in case you're interested, that's on December 6th at 10 a.m. And then there's also the Council of Officials quarterly meeting on December 11th at 11:30 a.m. And then, as I said, this meeting on February 12th.
As a note, at that joint TTAC and RPAC meeting, we'll be going over the Safe Streets for All MPO progress to date, which includes a lot of what we are hoping to do on the RPA side. So if that's something you guys are interested in learning more about, maybe seeing what that might look like on the other side of the river, feel free to attend that.
So you're welcome to stay if you like. I'm gonna go through the TA set aside application. Okay, so as a reminder, the call for projects opened on October 18th. It closes on January 24th. There will be a 30-day public comment period for the public to review projects that have been submitted or applications that have been submitted. That will occur before project selection, so that runs from January 29th to February 28th, 2025. And then project selection will occur at the March 12th RPA meeting. So just a review of the program. The main goals are to upgrade the condition of streets, highways, and bridges to create a modern transportation network that's safe for all users, to provide access across all transportation modes, to provide choices, to accommodate new and emerging technologies, to make the network more sustainable and resilient, and to make sure that the network is more equitable. And so this is the website where you can access the application. There are 3 parts to it. So the first part is pretty basic, the project sponsor, contact name, title, email address, phone number. You do need a unique entity identifier, and the way if you don't have one already, the way to get one is to go to sam.gov and get assigned one. The RPA is obviously RPA 18 for this region. You need a project title, description, and whether or not the project would be considered under Safe Routes to School, whether it's adjacent to a state designated Iowa byway, whether the facility will be open to the public, and whether a fee will be charged for the public to access it. Part C covers project costs, and the important thing to note here is that there has to be a local match, a 20% local match, and you can't use federal funds for that local match. And then column 1 is the total estimated cost, and then column 2 is what will not be reimbursed, and column 3 is what you intend to get reimbursed. So basically column 3 would be under the TA set aside program, and no row should have all 3 columns, should have costs in all 3 columns. And then the total cost of, total of column 2 plus total 3 should equal the amount in column 1. And then again, the amount and whether the funds are secured or anticipated, and then the source. So for funding sources, they need to be secured if they're included in calculating the total matching funds in line E. So here. And part D, they want the project milestones. They want a timeline basically, and an important thing to note is NEPA, which is basically the steps that have to be taken to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act. That's a big factor. If that isn't complete or it's not near the point where it can start, that can be a big hurdle. And projects have to be let within 2 years of the funds being available. So things like right of way, final design, start of construction, all these milestones, they want you to list when you anticipate those things happening.
What is the program year project? So it'll be in 27 or 8? 26, 27, and 28. For the Safe Routes to School, this section only needs to be filled out for that particular program. So some basic information, school name, grades, distance, eligibility for riding a bus, and so on. But the important thing to note here is that for the Safe Routes to School, they want you to have this discussion on how you will evaluate how successful this project is. So things like, how will you measure your success? What method will you use to determine whether more students are walking or bicycling to school? What are your specific goals? Your plans for this should at least include the survey, the student survey forms that they give at this website, Safe Routes to School saferoutesdata.org. You have to at least complete those minimum, surveys. Yeah, so they gather information on how you will judge the success of this project. And then part F has, I believe, 11 narrative questions. And I just kind of summarized what they're about. The first one requires a detailed description of the project. So include the site conditions, if it's a trail, how long the trail is going to be. And then it's very important to clearly define the phases, if it's going to occur in phases, what those are, and if it's connecting, for example, if it's a trail project that's connecting segments of trails, that needs to be clearly defined what the end result is going to be.
how much land needs to be acquired and so on. The impact of the project, whether, what the value is to the region, how it's going to affect or improve the quality of life in the region. Will it increase tourism? Will it draw visitors? Things like that. How much planning has been done. And for safety components, you know, if it's something that is meant to improve safety, MAPA uses its ICAT, Iowa Crash Analysis Tool. And so here I've selected the 4 counties on the RPA team, just as an example, that's something MAPA can assist with if you would like to learn how to use it and learn what it can do. So another narrative question is about the project being consistent with local, regional, or statewide planning documents, what the relationship is of the particular project to these plans. For example, you know, being consistent with a bicycle and pedestrian plan, and if there are links to publicly available documents, it's good to include those. And then it's really important that the sponsor have previous experience and have the staff available to do this. They look at things like how previous projects have been completed, have they been done in a timely and compliant manner? Basically, what's the capacity of the project sponsor? Does the project sponsor understand what is required by this program? And then contribution to different transportation modes. That's one of the narrative questions, and whether the project would address safety concerns, whether it would enhance tourism, whether it would have economic benefits and what those would be, things like that. The need for the project, basically, why is it necessary and what population will it serve? Will it impact low-income areas or areas with transit-dependent populations, rural areas? And MAPA has this regional equity toolbox available on the website. And again, that's something else we can assist with if you'd like to learn how to use it, or you'd like for us to show you what it can do. And accessibility, if there have been efforts to go beyond compliance with basic ADA requirements, and will the facility be usable by individuals with disabilities? What is the long-term maintenance plan? Have arrangements been made to continue operation and maintenance after the project is complete? Is there funding for that, and where would it come from? So project readiness, basically what efforts have been made to prepare for this project? Is it ready for development? Will the project go ahead as soon as funding is awarded without delay? And then public input process, they want you to discuss what the process was that was followed for public input, and then discuss any partnerships with local organizations or stakeholders that may facilitate public participation. So part G is a checklist and certification. There are various components. There's an application form, a detailed map is required, a sketch plan is required, digital photographs up to 5, and then an itemized breakdown of the project costs, an official endorsement from the project sponsor, if applicable, a letter of support from a byway organization, a local byway organization, and also if applicable, a letter of consent to submit from the district engineer, Iowa DOT district engineer. And then for each funding source listed, they want documentation from that source, and then a certification signed by an official authorized by the project sponsor. And then, there's also a minority impact statement. And it's pretty self-explanatory, just indicating what groups, if any, will be impacted by this project. And if there's a negative impact, to describe what that is expected to be. And just to summarize, it's better to ask questions as early as possible. We can help, Iowa DOT can also help. Applications again due by January 24th. And applications as well as questions can be sent to rpa@napacog.org. And then that's the website that I showed earlier for accessing the application. Travis, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, there's not.
Thanks. But basically, you know, they want to see that the project is ready and the project like how ready is the project, and the sponsor is capable of meeting all these requirements and has the staff and the capacity and the funds to do all the components like NEPA that could stand in the way of federally funded project going to completion. And we will, like I said, we'll be summarizing the projects and then presenting them for public comment, and then project selection will happen in February. So again, no meeting until then unless there's a TIP amendment, so make sure you watch your email. And TTAC and RPAC meeting December 6th, council officials December 11th. And that's all for today. Unless anyone has anything else I'd like to bring up.
Any comments or questions, anything? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Winthrop.
Motion to a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried.